Because we don't understand how life formed, it is difficult to estimate this probability. The likelihood of a complex molecule like DNA being created by random collisions of atoms in a primordial ocean is fantastically small. In an infinite universe, it would happen in some places, but they would be very far apart. If we want to find advanced intelligent life, our best bet is to listen for radio signals.
Look up to the stars and the forests that surround. Do you see them? Do you hear them? Are they there? SpacedOutRadio.com presents S4 with Forest Moon Paranormal's Eric Cooper and friends. Also, take the time to join the Forest Moon Paranormal Facebook group.
I knew I should have made a left turn at Albuquerque.
Aliens, Bigfoot, conspiracy, Area 51, Dogman, ghosts, cover-ups, UFOs. The hidden will reveal itself.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go live on S4 with Eric Cooper.
All right. Good evening, S4. Coming to you, recorded tonight from the mountains of Concrete, Washington, the headquarters of Forest Moon Paranormal, and kind of the reason we're talking tonight. So the opinions and views of S4 do not reflect that of Spaced Out Radio. And if you haven't heard of Spaced Out Radio, it's on every night from 9 p.m. to midnight Pacific Standard Time at www.spacedoutradio.com. Go check them out. They are the best in paranormal radio, and S4 falls under that umbrella. And all music with S4, as with the Spaced Out Radio, comes from Ron Bumblefoot Thal. So go check him out. He's also into the paranormal, and he loves Spaced Out Radio. So, what brings us tonight is I've been meaning to do this show for a while, and kind of to give you an idea where I come from and where Forest Moon Paranormal comes from, and why we do what we do, why we do it for free, and why we're different than the other groups, because that comes up a lot. There's, and I won't say any names. I'm not here to slander anybody. I really don't care what they do. All I know is we pick up their slack, we clean up their messes, and that's what irritates me the most, is too many people are in the paranormal field for the wrong damn reason. And when I have clients that get a hold of me and they're in tears and they're terrified, and they've had another quote-unquote ghost hunting group we're not ghost hunters. We're paranormal investigators, and we actually handle this on an emergency responders attitude. We're an emergency response team for the paranormal. We're not paramedics. We're not cops. We're not firemen. We're paranormal emergency response. And what constitutes? We'll get there. We'll get there. I'm gonna jump the gun now. I'm gonna tell you what constitutes a paranormal emergency to me. So my first encounter, and I'm actually going to go into some stuff that I haven't talked about, and I've been on several shows, interviews and whatnot, and I don't tell everyone everything, and I probably won't tell you everything tonight because, well, I don't frankly remember everything. I'm 48 years old, and half of that was in the Army, so you go figure that out. So my first actual paranormal event, I was anywhere between the ages of 12 and 14 because I don't exactly remember. I know I just had a knee injury, so I was in a brace. We lived in the mountains of Big Lake, Washington, and my parents were gone. We had 40 acres, 10 cows, and the neighbors called. They said, Eric, your cows are out. And it wouldn't be a problem, but the gate at the highway is open. There's no gate there, so they can get out in the highway. I said, oh, wonderful. So I put my shoes on, my boots on, went out in the pasture, about half mile to a mile. No, half mile. So I walk out there, and I had one. I don't know if she. I really can't explain her. Her name was Bossy. I named her, and she was more like a big dog. If I mean, I was a kid, so I would go out and play in the woods, and my cows would follow me around, and I'd stop and play, and they'd eat grass and make sure I was okay, and we'd all walk back to the house. And she never got out. And once again, she's standing at the fence trying to call the other cows back in, but they want nothing to do with it. So I went, across the fence, and the cows looked at me, and they looked at that, almost like they knew that there was no gate there. They looked right at it, and they started running for it. And whatever scared them, they actually slid to a halt, all stared at the same spot. There was no tall grass, so nothing was hiding. I've over the years come back to this event. There was no tall grass. There wasn't a skunk. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't a coyote. There was none there. I could see what they were looking at. There was nothing there. Now, over the years, I've had people tell me, well, it was an alien. I don't know. It could have been. Who knows? I've had people speculate. I've had people tell me a whole lot of things over the years in the Army. I've had people tell me I was actually a tall gray in a former life. I don't know. Was I? Who knows? Do I care? I really don't. I know my mission in this life, and that's all that matters. So, actually, we'll get back to that theory shortly, because if that was the case, it would make sense in a couple regards. So, what would make sense with that if that was the case? Because anyone with reincarnation, you can reincarnate as an alien, you can reincarnate as, I believe, anything other than like insects and things like that. And I actually have a hard time with people reincarnating as animals. Some people think so. Personally, I think you can only reincarnate in humanoid form, which would be aliens could fall into that category. I've heard other people talk about reincarnating as aliens. I think it's a possibility. Um, so, after the cow event, the cows got terrified. They ran all the way back, ran right back to the fence, ran all the way back to the barn. I turned around and walked back. Bossy walked back with me. What happened there? I have no idea. So jumping ahead a few years, I joined the Army in '89. This is probably about '85, '86 that this event happened. prior to that, growing up, I know my cousin commented he had a ghost, and we were about 7 or 8. He had a ghost or a shadow that was on the ceiling every once in a while. We laughed about it. We joked. We went back to our science fiction movies. Other than that, I had no real eventful paranormal events that I can remember as a child. So 89, I joined the Army in 1990. So I had a crystal. And this story I know I've never told on the air, but I had a crystal that an acquaintance gave me on the streets. And he said, this crystal is going to protect you. Don't ever lose it. Very large crystal. Rough, uncut, natural crystal. And 2 different events happened with that crystal. I was stationed in Stuttgart, and a buddy of mine was going to Desert Storm. And he wanted me to watch over his girlfriend. She wanted to go to the, to a bar or whatever, make sure she didn't get hurt, jump, whatever. She was German. She came to my barracks and she wanted to go to a club. Okay, cool. We're walking down this path to this club, and she turns around and says, "What was that?" I was like, "What?" She said, "There's like a flash of light out of your pocket. Do you have a flashlight or something?" I said, "No. All I have is this crystal." Well, the crystal flashed. She swore up and down it did. I didn't see it. Now, what connection that had to this, I have no idea. I believe because I left Stuttgart before my buddy was supposed to get back, and I believe my buddy died in Desert Storm. So, was that the moment he died? I don't know. Anyway, going to Stuttgart, going to Bad Hersfeld to the 11th Armored Cavalry. My tanker buddies were driving me to my new unit, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning. We were driving to this new base, and some Germans hit us. And me being a combat medic, I jumped out of the car, and it's an S-Bahn, so it's like a 2-lane highway, essentially. Well, 2-lane, 4-lane. It's not the Autobahn. It's smaller than the Autobahn would be. Still, really no speed limit. But their car was broadside one of the lanes. It was blocking a lane. And all I remember is I was standing next to their car, making sure they were okay. 2 o'clock in the morning, there's no traffic at all, no cars. But I remember hearing screeching tires, crunching metal, and I'm laying in some woods. I got hit with a 120-mile-an-hour impact. And my tanker buddies were standing by our car. They said I flew through the air like a rag doll about 30 feet. My tennis shoes were still sitting on the Autobahn or on the S-Bahn where I was standing. But what was weird, they said when I was flying through the air, they saw a flash of light. And they thought I was dead. I just know I was hurting. I was in pain. I couldn't move my legs. And I started calling for help and started pulling myself up this embankment. And my buddies were like, "Oh my God, you're alive?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, apparently." And they're like, "Coop, we don't know what to do because these Germans are bleeding and you're the medic." They're like, "Well, what do you mean they're bleeding?" They were fine when I looked at them, and apparently they had run around to the other side of the car, so they actually got hit by the other car and were impacted between the 2 cars. And I was put in the Krankenwagen and I was taken to the hospital. And next day, a couple days later, I was walking out of my barracks with these crutches. New soldier, never been to this unit. This is my first time at this unit. And all the soldiers looked at me going, "You're walking?" Like, yeah. I said, "We were told you wouldn't be walking anymore, ever again." Like, well, I'm apparently walking. And again, the flash of light came from the crystal that was in my pocket. Now, my tennis shoes were knocked off my feet, and all I had was my jacket, and the crystal was in my pocket. You know, these are just some of those things that are they're paranormal. They're not normal. I had a crystal that was protecting me. So in Bad Hersfeld, 'cause we'll go one station at a time. So in Bad Hersfeld, and I played with a Ouija board when I was in Stuttgart. Nothing happened, folks. Ouija boards. Let's talk about that for a second. Ouija boards are nothing more than communication tools. Now, with any tool, if you don't use it properly and safely, you can get hurt. This is true. What irritates me, I think, the most with Ouija boards and spirit boards are very similar. Many people with spirit boards, however, use a pendulum instead of a planchet. Both the same thing. Both are spirit communicators. But you know what? So is getting an EVP with a recording device. You're still opening up that channel. You can still get an attachment. You can still bring in the wrong thing. It's basically about your intention and what kind of protection you're using. And I've heard so many people, especially on Dave's show, protection? I don't need no protection. Okay, you're going to be calling my team in when you get the attachment. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Anyway, so in Bad Hersfeld, I had a ghost. I named him Fritz. He was a World War II soldier. He lived in my room. Actually, he went room hopping, whoever was drinking the most. And so a buddy and I were bullshitting in my room, getting ready to go club hopping. And I told him, yeah, I've got this ghost named Fritz. Now my buddy's sitting in my bed while I'm getting ready, and they said, "Ghost? I don't believe in no ghost." Well, my bed collapsed, dude. I've been living in this room for what, almost a year, and never had a problem in my bed before. I was like, dude, you just pissed off Fritz. I fixed my bed. He sat down. He says, "No, seriously, I don't believe in ghosts." Clunk. Like, dude, stop pissing him off. We left. Anyway, another buddy of mine and this was another weird one. So we're walking down an alley towards the Ratskeller. Now, the Ratskeller would be the equivalent of your Chamber of Commerce building or your main political building in a community. And as we're walking down this alley, it's about 10 o'clock at night. If you listen to Spaced Out Radio, you've heard me tell this story before. But it's one of those things that you just don't know. Because, did I walk through a wormhole? I don't know. I still can't explain this one. But as we're walking, both of our vision turned black and white. And in front of us, all of a sudden we see a 1930s limousine. Now, on one side there's a flag with a swastika, the other side was a German flag. And in front of us is a Ratskeller. And as we're walking, the Ratskeller door opens, and here comes Hitler and his entourage. Now, my question with that, too, is they looked up. They saw us. Now, what did they see? Did they see Germans walking down the street, or did they see a couple of U.S. soldiers walking down, going club hopping? I don't know. They didn't look shocked. They didn't look surprised. They didn't look disturbed. They were just doing their business. They went about their business. We got to the end of the alley, turned left, and as soon as we got away from it, my buddy's like, "Coop, did you see something weird back there?" And I was like, "You saw that too?" Wow. And we swapped stories, and we both saw the same thing. So, after that, I didn't think a whole lot of it. It wasn't enough of a jump to make me go, "Oh my God, I've got to go out and investigate." No. I experienced spirits. Growing up, I never experienced anything Bigfoot. To my knowledge, I never saw any UFOs growing up. I watched black and white flying saucer TV documentaries and stuff just out of curiosity, but I never believed in it. So in 1994, actually, I went to Operation Positive Force. Basically, after Desert Storm, a week later, they signed the ceasefire for Desert Storm. A week later, my regiment went in, basically to keep Saddam from coming back. Got done with that. 1993, I went to Somalia. Again, I think I have my crystal, which probably saved my life. I don't know. I know I had sniper bullets go within inches of my waist. We were ambushed all the time. A lot of stuff happened that I won't talk about. But Somalia was hell. So I got out of the Army. Got out of the Army in 94. Went back into the Army in 95. Now in 94, I met an abductee. And she woke up. Never even heard of alien abduction prior to this. But she woke up and she was kind of freaked out because she had 3 puncture marks on her lower abdomen in a triangle pattern. We're like, damn, what's that? Where did that come from? And I don't believe in irony. We turned on a TV show, and I can't remember what TV show it was. One of those talk shows. Their topic of discussion just happened to be a panel of alien abductees, and we're like, huh, interesting. But our attitude changed real quick when, within the first 5 minutes of us turning the show on, one of them said, yeah, my first sign was this triangular shaped series of puncture marks on my lower abdomen. Like, you gotta be shitting me. No, oh, no, 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 no. No, really? And of course, then she went through all the signs and symptoms, which I'm not going to go into. It's not the purpose of tonight's show. We're actually going into that in May 7th will be an alien abduction show. We've done it before on S4, but this day and age, I've got more abductees coming up and talking. So I find the importance of it to refresh an alien abduction show every couple months. So difference with May 7th is going to be we're actually going to go into alien races that we know abduct, and there's about 15 of them. There's 15 different races that are abducting humans, all of them with a different purpose, and we're going to go into that. But my first book I picked up because that definitely hit a button, especially after she came up with a missing pregnancy that was documented. And of course, we don't have any paperwork because they keep that stuff. But I took her to Madigan Hospital because she had pregnancy signs, and they were baffled because they did an ultrasound and they were like, "Well, you were pregnant, and there's nothing absorbed in your bloodstream, so there's nothing there. But we know you were pregnant." Well, that's one of the signs. Back in the 90s during the hybrid program, and so I never got scared. I gotta say that. I got pissed. I went out, and my first book I picked up, which I encourage everyone to pick up, is Dr. David Jacobs' Secret Life of Alien Abduction. And it goes into everything. The first signs and symptoms, right down to why and what race is doing it. And of course, back then, everyone thought it was all grays. And of course, then later on, I met the reptilians, and yeah. But I've been doing research on alien races for Dave's Paracon in end of September because I'm doing the alien race lecture, and I'm going to say the Mater and Velash make the reptilians look like kittens in comparison, and we'll get to that in another episode. But so that got me on the path of alien abduction, and of course UFOs goes right along with that. My first UFO sighting was in Germany. So my first UFO was in Germany, and I was driving, or rather riding. We took a soldier to prison in Mannheim. About midnight, we're driving down the Autobahn, just passing Bad Windsheim, as a matter of fact. And I could see the full moon on the right side of the Autobahn. But on the left side was a giant orange orb, about the same size as the full moon. I'm asking my driver, I'm like, are you seeing this? He looked out there. He said, yeah, that's kind of weird. And it didn't shoot up. It didn't go sideways. It didn't do nothing. It just blinked out like a light. It wasn't a searchlight. It was just a giant basketball in the sky, basically. My second sighting was a few months later. It might not even have been a year later. And I was on my patio. And something told me to go out and signal this thing. Because there was a star that kept blinking. Well, what I thought was a star. And I went out with a flashlight. And I flashed this light at this object. And it shot down to about the height an airliner would be. And it hovered there. And I guess I was in awe. Just like, wow. And it hovered there for about 10 minutes. And then it shot right back up into its original position. And now, my third UFO sighting was in Iraq, in Talafar, or Talafa. And it was a triangular-shaped object. Now, I ran a pagan group in Talafa at this time. And within my pagan group, I actually had, helicopter mechanics. I had helicopter crewmen. And, they were witnessing this with me. And they were like, that's not one of ours. Now, I'm not saying it was an alien craft. It could have been a TR-3B. It could have been something else experimental. We're in a war zone. But you can take that two ways. A war zone could be our own or another government's experimental craft. And it's also a hot spot for alien interest. Aliens actually come down during war and observe. So, was it alien? I don't know. I used to have a video of this, but I've gone through about 10 different laptops during that time, and it got lost within the shuffle. So that's my UFO experiences. I've been in the abduction and UFO side since 1994, extensively, and so that's pretty much my specialty within Forest Moon Paranormal, aside from being case manager and triage specialist. Now, also in Dettelbach, Germany, we had actually had a spirit that threw a knife across the kitchen. It's embedded in the wall. We heard giggles that came from the cellar, and this is before I started Forest Moon Paranormal up. So I wasn't interested in clearing things out. I was interested in the safety of my family and getting the hell out of there, and we did. After the knife flew across the kitchen, we were moved out rather quickly. And that's the difference between governments, because you tell Germans that you have a haunting, they take it serious. You tell the same people, army housing in America, that they're going to laugh and say, "Suck it up, you're crazy." And, and you look at the difference in governments or the attitude of people, and even today in society in America, you tell someone any kind of a paranormal story, most of the time they're going to laugh at you and say you need to go see a psychiatrist. Wrong answer. We actually have a psychiatrist in Washington State that is going to be referring clients to us that she deems are not psychiatric but are paranormal. So that's a step to me in the right direction, because we see both sides. being paranormal, we actually see people that are psychiatric, that it's not paranormal, it's psych, and you can't force them to go seek help. They have to get it on their own. On the other end of that, though, you have people that go see a psychiatrist thinking they're crazy, or are told they're crazy, that aren't crazy. They're not a psychiatric issue, it's a paranormal issue. So, paranormal and psychiatric would be awesome if they worked together. So, getting to reptilians. When I was stationed in Atlanta, Georgia, that was a very large peak in my UFO abduction research time period. At that point, I was a member of MUFON as a field investigator in training. I wasn't impressed. I was with them for about a year, and from what I saw of MUFON, they were nothing more than debunkers and ridiculers. If you came to them saying you were that you were an experiencer, they would have laughed you out the door. That was my observation of MUFON. Today, I'm not going to, I just stay away from them. We do our own investigating and take care of abductees the best we can. So I stepped out of my apartment one day though, and we had some cool hauntings in that apartment. We actually had pennies that would materialize out of thin air and drop on the floor in front of you. I had a spirit make me a pot of coffee one night, and you've got to put the water in, you've got to put the grounds in. None of that was done. I was sitting in the living room. Nobody else made coffee. And all of a sudden, the coffee's. I heard the percolator, and I saw the coffee dripping. I'm like, huh. It was weak, but I drank it. What are you gonna do? Waste it? Not me. So anyway, so I stepped out of my apartment one day, and first thing I noticed was, and I've never seen a praying mantis in my life. And if you ever done alien research, you'll know praying mantis is one of the signs of reptilians. I didn't know that at this time, but there were about 10 praying mantises around my feet. And this kind of goes back to earlier when I said I had a witch that told me that in a prior life I've been a gray. And I stepped out of my apartment and saw these praying mantises, and then all of a sudden there was like a pain in my stomach, and I had a splitting pain in my head, and I could feel a presence. I never saw both encounters I had with reptilians. They were cloaked. I could just sense them and feel them, and it attacked me for about 5 minutes, and then there was almost like a dog whistle. It was a shrill electronic piercing noise, and it was gone. So theory has it that maybe the Greys were helping me. I don't know. This is all conjecture. This ain't fact. This is all conjecture based on my feelings. My second encounter with them was at Fort Lewis 10 years later. And I pull up to the PX, or a shop at, it's like a gas station, small store. I stepped out of my van, and I got the same feeling. No dog whistle this time, but I got the same feeling. And it was kind of like a face-to-face encounter. But, it's cloaked. But the same feeling, the same energy pattern, and almost like it was the exact same one. Now, with Fort Lewis, there's a little town called Yelm, and they have the Romthans there. The Romthans were started by J.Z. Knight. She was a housewife in the 1940s in Roswell, New Mexico. And she was channeled by an entity named Ramtha. And he claimed he was an ancient alien warrior. And he instructed her what to do. She went and bought this property in Yelm, Washington from Shirley MacLaine. And they meet every year. She's famous. She does all these lectures and speaks here and there. And they believe, if I remember right, that there is a draconian race that lives inside Mount Rainier. And to take that a step farther, there's supposed to be tunnels underneath Mount Rainier that go underneath the old Madigan Hospital on Fort Lewis. Now, if you go by where the old Madigan Hospital at Fort Lewis is, it's a one-level, very spread out hospital. It's like Vietnam, I want to say World War II era. It's not a second, there's no second floor. But there's elevators that go down. It's like, why would there be elevators going down on a one-level hospital? So just things that make you go. There's also a little structure around the same area they call the farm, and it's heavily secure. They supposedly do animal experimentation there, or did, and it's got a keypad, a heavily chain link fence with the normal wire that goes out. Heavily secure, real small parking lot, real small area. Makes you think it goes down. So that's just some things about Fort Lewis I experienced. Uh, so some other things I experienced in Iraq, again in Talifa. Some of those places are hard to pronounce right. So we got some really cool pictures. We did a Lama celebration, and we actually got pictures of the elementals leaving. Those pictures are actually posted in the Forest Moon Paranormal group. We experienced some strange entity activity. Um, so that's kind of where I stand on the paranormal side. As far as Bigfoot, we live here in concrete, and I have a mountain behind my house. So I went hunting a couple of years ago, and me and a couple of buddies were walking down this trail, and we heard three loud, like somebody was picking up a tree and hitting a tree with it, and it was right in front of us. Like, what the hell is that? We put our gear down because we had to crawl under some fallen trees to get to this area, but we could see the area. We just had to crawl underneath these trees to get to it. We went over there, and there was nothing there. It was clear enough that you could see if there was anything running away, or any noise or whatever. We looked around for 10, 15 minutes, and went back to our packs. As soon as we picked up our packs and put them on and turned around to walk away, it did it again. So, you've got these people with that like to go out and hunt Bigfoot. Oh, Bigfoot's just an animal. No, he's not. If he was just an animal, you've got so many cases of people that follow Bigfoot tracks in the middle of an open field and they just disappear. How do you explain that? There's no trees for them to jump up, because you have the argument that, well, they climb trees. Well, I'm sure they do, but not from an open field where they just disappear. It doesn't work that way. So there's many of us that feel Native American lore as well, where they call him the hairy man. But we believe Bigfoot is a interdimensional being, because that would explain the lack of bodies, the reason tracks disappear. There's also been cases, well, even Dave experienced where it actually had a digitized pattern, almost like the movie Predator. He could hear it, but he saw this digital pattern moving, and that's interdimensional to me. So what we're going to do, we're going to experiment with the astral team, and we'll talk about the astral team here in a minute, or in a little bit. We're going to see if the astral team can actually pick up a Bigfoot from the same location while we're boots on ground. And if they pick him up in the astral realm, then that would be one indicator, potentially, that he's interdimensional. So there's a lot of plans we've got in the future with Forest Moon. I'll call it FMP now. So over the years of working with abductees and, seeing the trauma they go through. And even talking to people that have hauntings and seeing the trauma they go through. That's why I take it, I don't give a damn about a picture. There's enough evidence out there from the very beginning of paranormal investigation to prove the existence. You don't need to prove it anymore. No reason to. So, Forest Moon Paranormal is an emergency response team. What is an emergency response? By our protocol, any time you have a child case or a pregnant woman case, you have a woman that's pregnant or you have children in the home, that's an emergency. So why would a pregnant woman be an emergency? Well, for two reasons. One, she's already pregnant. She doesn't need any more stress, which the paranormal is going to cause anyway, for the safety of the fetus. Two, there's some spirits out there that would love to have the soul of that baby. I've seen it. I've seen where there's been a miscarriage and then the spirit left. So those are the two reasons with pregnant women. The second would be any time there's a haunting where there is physical injury, or it's severe enough that the family's terrified because there's things moving around. There's if it's an extreme haunting case, then that's a paranormal emergency. Three, if there's an active UFO sighting or alien abduction going on. And four, just for the sake of it, if there's an active Bigfoot sighting, we'll roll. So we have a training program. We're into the third month of training. Our training is the second Saturday of every month. In fact, in May, the second Saturday of May, we're actually going to be doing wilderness survival and first aid. And I get asked, why are we doing wilderness survival if we're a paranormal group? Well, one, we're in the mountains. It just comes with the terrain. Two, you see so many shows, again, with Bigfoot hunters. They're wearing khaki shorts and they got no gear. Because, well, they've got a cameraman, they've got, everything they need right there. So you've got Joe Schmo that wants to go up Bigfoot hunting. Doesn't take nothing with him because he doesn't know the first hand about the mountains. And they get lost and they wind up dying. Coming from a military background, it just makes sense anyway. So we're doing wilderness survival and first aid the second Saturday of the month at Grandy Lake Campground for anyone local listening. And then we're going to hit probably in June, July timeframe. We'll start talking UFO investigation, scientific protocols, because we actually have a scientist on the team. His name's Eric Markham. He's out of North Carolina. If we get any evidence, we mail it to him. He takes care of it, gets it analyzed, whatnot, has his own lab. That way it's in-house. We don't have to worry about it being tainted. We just have to know how to collect the evidence properly, and we'll be training on that. So that's where we stand on that. So I actually started Forest Moon Paranormal up in 2006. And it started off small, probably about 400 or 500 people. But, statewide. Nationwide, there we go. That's the word I went for, nationwide. So when I got cases that were, outside our state, I had people I'd refer them to in their state. That was kind of the network I was gearing for. So, meantime, we had Tony Loki LaCroix. He was active duty at that time. And he was one of our pagan troops that we were supporting with the Forest Moon Grove side. And he got out. And he joined Forest Moon Paranormal. Well, he's an astral traveler. He knows how to astral. So we started talking. This is about 2012. And we wanted to try taking on paranormal cases from the astral. So he tried it out a few times and it was successful. So we discussed starting an astral team. And we put the word out. We trained some people up. It was going great. From the astral aspect, there's no distance to worry about. You can take cases in Ireland, UK, Russia. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where the case is. Everyone works differently. Some need a picture. Some need to talk to the client and hear them on the phone, and that's how they get the energy signature to travel to them. Some of them, like Tony, doesn't need that. Doesn't need anything. They're gone. So we've been doing that since 2012, and that's about 80% of our cases. Now they can actually feel alien energy as well to an extent. I usually handle the alien cases. That's my specialty. And we handle about, right now, probably 4 or 5 cases a day. And we actually have an astral school going on right now with, I think we have 2 students. Started out 4, 2 of them dropped. That's about the drop rate. We'll get a school going and about half of them drop in the first 2 weeks. Due to personal reasons, due to don't have time for it. It's all done online and astrally. So let's see, we have the astral team, which is about 7 astral. We have boots on ground here locally in Skagit County, Whatcom County, Snohomish County. And if it's alien or UFO related, I will drive. Within Washington State anyway. Depends on how major it is. If it's major enough, I will go to Idaho or Oregon. Bigfoot, we have Tyler Allen Gaffney, and he's Native American. He's ex-Special Forces, and has been working with Bigfoot for at least, I'm not going to misquote this, so at least 5 years. I know that for a fact. And he actually goes up and mingles and I guess plays around with Bigfoot. It would be the appropriate way of saying it, because they toss rocks back and forth. And he's been studying their behavior for quite a few years, extensively. And I'll know by June, but he should be at Paracon talking big life and times of Bigfoot. So Paracon is September 23rd. If you want to vend, we already have Mystic Sanctuary coming. They're a store out of Tacoma. They'll be bringing sage, stones, books, pendulums, spirit boards, things like that. We have a reader, Skeeter Wellhouse. She's coming. She'll be doing readings. Dave Scott's coming to speak on media and the paranormal. We have Christina George coming from California. She's talking alien abduction. We have Mike Morin coming from the Canadian Paranormal Investigators, and he's talking ghosts and spirits and ethics of the paranormal. And then we have Eric Markham coming, talking science of the paranormal. So originally I was going to speak on alien abduction, but I'm stepping out. I'm going to be running logistics, helping my mate Izzy. Logistics gets to be a bear sometimes, so I'll be helping her with logistics. I'll be speaking alien races at Dave's Paracon in British Columbia, September 29th to October 2nd. And I'll be lecturing on alien races. Looking forward to that. So I want to bounce back. What makes us different than other groups? Well, a lot. One, usually by the time we get the phone call, our client is so exasperated because they don't know where to turn, they're terrified and in tears, like I said. The other ones have contacted other teams. The other teams came in, got their nice little picture in EVP and said, "Oh, have a nice day." Well, now they've done 2 things. They've pissed off the spirit or whatever's in the house, and now they're going to leave the clients to deal with it. So by the time we get called, that client's been terrified even more because, again, of 2 things. One, their experiences have been validated by this team that went in, and 2, now they don't know what to do because this supposed team went in and got their evidence and don't know what to do from that point, so they're leaving now. And, you call in a paranormal team, you figure they're going to come in and handle whatever's going on. Well, a lot of teams aren't trained that way and don't prepare that way. They just want their evidence. So we get called in. So what happens? I get a phone call. I get a message. First thing I do, get some basic details. What's going on? I get an email. I send them our pre-investigative questionnaire. Now I'm already in contact with them. I'm already doing triage. I'm already looking at patterns, figuring out, is it alien? Is it entity? Is it ghost? Is it spirit? Then I look at two things. I look at location. If it's local, we'll handle boots on ground with the astral. If it's outside our area, if it's in Tacoma or Seattle area, I've got Richard Benak down there. So I'll pass it off to him with the investigative questionnaire and any pictures that were sent in. He's got a team down that way, and they'll go boots on ground. Plus, he's one of our astral instructors, so he can take it whichever way he needs to, whether he takes it astral or takes his team in to clear it out. If it's straight global, international, any state outside of Washington, then the astral team takes it. That's how we handle it. Now, here's the thing that really pisses me off is you got so many, about 90% of teams out there are only ghost spirit. They're not even remotely interested in the UFO side because, well, hey, UFOs aren't paranormal. Yeah, they are. So that isolates a whole group of people, the abductees. And the abductees are just as terrified as the family that's going through a haunting. The difference being, my team can remove the haunting. We don't have a way of stopping the abduction. So, what I tell abductees, first and foremost, most of them are relieved, one, just by the fact that someone's here listening to them, because now they know they're not crazy. Because, society, if you say you're an abductee, you must be probed or this or that, or you're just crazy, you need to see a psychiatrist. Wrong answer. So that's relief off them right off the bat that you're listening to them. Two, what we're working on is getting peer support groups established, because if they can find a peer support group, that's another vent for them. The other thing I encourage you, it doesn't matter what paranormal experience you're having, is to start a journal of your activity. And with that journal, it can be a basic notebook. As soon as you wake up, write your dreams. Put down your date, your time, the weather. I want to hear the weather, because the weather can influence how you're dreaming. And with that journal, you're going to put down any experiences you're having, with the date and the time. Is there animal reaction? Animals are a big part. When I was in Germany, I had a chow chow. My chow chow was very much a paranormal smart dog. I had an encounter. I was in the kitchen. My chow was with me. And I got this strange feeling. And about the same time, I got this metallic taste in my mouth. Now I looked at my chow, and my chow was looking at the ceiling. And he walked into the living room, still looking at the ceiling, and started whimpering. And he sat down, like something commanded him to sit down. Now, I've heard from other experiencers that aliens can also give you this metallic taste in your mouth, so I do think it was an alien visitation. This experience lasted about 5-10 minutes, and then it left. The metallic taste left, the dog was normal, everything was back to normal. But animals play a very big role, because cats see in the fourth, possibly even the fifth dimensions. Same with dogs, which is why you have so much. We've had cases where the animals wouldn't go in the room that was affected the most. They wouldn't go in the bed. They wouldn't go in the room. They were terrified of that room. Same with kids. And if you're a parent, listen to your kids. Pay attention to what they're drawing. If they're drawing pictures and there's red eyes, those are things to be aware of. Shadow people. Let's talk about shadows for a second. Most shadows, if they're just your general shadow, not much to worry about. There's people in the magical realm that will send shadows to spy. Why? I don't know. What kind of attention have you drawn? So some of them are spies. Some of them are just, I don't know, they're shadow entities that are benevolent, and they just kind of snoop around. The shadows you need to watch are shadows that seem to wear hats. If it's got like a top hat or a hat, get away. If it's a shadow that has a cloak, again, be very much aware, because from the research I'm doing, those are an alien race that appear as shadows. They're called the Rogue, and those are things to be aware of. Also, like I said, with kids with the red eyes, with pictures with red eyes, be aware of that. When it comes to where was it going? So I'm basically doing this show tonight on a whim. I'm doing this with no notes, no nothing. So I'm just kind of going from topic to topic as I remember I wanted to talk about. Um, if you see people that seem to have glowing eyes, they're white glowing eyes. Those are V-lash hybrids. That's an alien race as well. And some people think I'm crazy talking this way, but when you've been in the field for over 20 years, you kind of it. This is normal talk. Disclosure in the government's not going to happen, because disclosure actually happened 30, 40 years ago. 1952 with the UFO flap over Washington D.C. Come on now, folks. Those were UFOs. Those were alien craft. Um, there's no doubt about it. If you're waiting for a president to come up and say, "Yep, there's aliens here," it's not going to happen, because they won't. They won't do that. That's not the way it happens. Be aware of the skies. You're going to see more and more activity. In fact, that's what we're talking about as for next Sunday. Is UFO patterns? Is there a rise? Is there a fall? When's the peak season? That kind of stuff. And then, of course, the week after that, I'm going to be hitting abduction real hard. Um, so if you're local and you're listening, even if you're not local and you're listening, you know what? We can use you. I can use researchers. I can use contacts in other countries. I can use contacts in other states. There's always a job or a place you can fit in with Forest Moon Paranormal. We can always use help in some way, or shape, or form. So contact me on Facebook. Join the group. Just go look for Forest Moon Paranormal in the group. And come to Paracon, September 23rd, here in Concrete, Washington. It's free. If you want VIP tickets, they're $30. That's the only charge. All the lectures are free. And with the VIP ticket, you get to sit in on the round table, and that's where all the speakers sit in a forum and ask questions. Now, if the VIP ticket holders have questions, their questions come first. That's priority. You're part of the. If you're in the audience, your questions are going to come before mine. That's why you're there. Basically, to pick the brains of the speakers. So I think that about wraps it up for tonight. Stay tuned for S4 next Sunday, and thank you for listening.